Finding out our gift and what we're here to do is one of the biggest journeys of our life. And at a certain stage, we're ready to integrate what we have learned so we can extract the nectar of our untapped potential that lies beneath the surface. In this video, we'll uncover the key practices you have to do to fully realize your gift and explore the systems that serves as a roadmap to your life. Hi, my name is Oscar and I help people raise their vibration and share their gift with the world. And in this video, we'll uncover the key practices you have to do to fully realize your gift and explore the systems that serves as a roadmap to your life. Now, 10 years ago, I said to my girlfriend at the time that I had no clue what emotions were. And it's quite funny because today, since 4 years back, I work as an emotional fitness coach. But 10 years ago, I had no clue what emotions were. I felt numb inside of myself, and I realized it very clearly when I thought about how other people thought of their parents and that they said that they loved them. And I couldn't feel that love. There was a numbness, and I never really thought, is there anything there? Could I ever feel anything? So I was numb. But not only was I numb, I also isolated myself. You see, I started now past, as I'm looking back at this, I realized I was so sensitive, so I was numb, right? Numbness is a defense. It's a defense to protect you from emotionally overwhelming situations. And I was numb, so I couldn't sense emotions. And I also isolated myself from the world. And when I look back at it, it also has to do with I felt very unsafe around my parents. Now, they were not different from any other parents, but they, when they were angry or when they shouted or they said something to me, I could feel such enormous guilt and shame inside of me. And I thought there was something wrong with me, right? I felt emotionally neglected by my parents. And that made me isolate myself against the environment. I was fearful, and it was hard for me to even be with my family and not feel, because I didn't feel safe in their presence. Now, that wasn't something that I knew back then, but I started realize now as during these years that I've been reflecting upon it, that was the case. And obviously they didn't do anything wrong. They just tried to teach me what they perceived was love from their way of being. But it made me numb. And also when I was very young, I had an enormous stomach ache. And I remember my father said to me that you shouldn't feel so much, right? Don't be so sensitive, which is it's a very common way that we've said in this world, right? Don't be so sensitive. Why? Well, because if we're sensitive, people might not like us But yet the sensitivity is what gives us access to the vulnerability and the tenderness that makes people understand us and relate to us and empathize with us. But I was told not to be so sensitive, so what could I do? I had to close down my emotions, which led to me having massive stomach aches, and probably led to me that I needed to operate on my appendix when it had gone for a long while. Anyway, that was in the past, but what I really want to emphasize here is that I didn't even know what emotions were. I didn't even know that I could name anger in that way. So I had to go on this enormous journey of being so utterly angry at my parents, at society, at people, at everything, but that there was an enormous anger inside of me against others, obviously, but there was also an enormous anger against myself for not having the emotional capacity to handle life situations. So what this means is that my father's way of saying don't be so sensitive, it led me to this call to a journey, right? It led me to a call to an adventure. Not that I chose it myself, or perhaps I did in a higher meaning, but because he closed it off, I had to go to this journey to find out, to extract the nectar of what it was, right? And that's what I want to tell you, that normally your biggest fear holds your greatest potential, right? My biggest fears was to feel my emotions. And honestly, I also said during those 10 years ago, I said to myself, I want to feel my emotion. I want to feel my emotions fully, because I didn't feel anything at the time, but I did not know what I was asking for. I had no clue. Boy, did I get to feel them, fully. Every one of them is like insecurity, inadequacy, hatred, hostility, anger, frustration, sorry, worry, shame, guilt, you name it. It's just like kept on coming. Before Corona, I laid in my bed and I processed every kind of emotion that I could have sensed. So the fear, or the fear, and also the anger against my father, made me go on this journey to understand the sensitivity that is inside of me, right? One of my biggest gifts is my sensitivity. I can sense where a person is in their emotional development, right? I can sense what they're holding back or not holding back, what they're embracing or not embracing, what is their truth and what is their non-truth. But that could only come after I started to realize, and I had to feel, right? And this is one of the practice. You have to feel the sadness, the frustration, the anger, the hatred, anything that this biggest fear holds for you. There's so many emotions there. So go into those emotions, explore them fully. Because it's when you do that, that's the integration, right? The reason why I'm saying it is at a certain stage of your life, it is because there comes a point when you accumulated enough life experiences so you can integrate it, because you have enough puzzle pieces to start assembling the pieces. Right? But it hurts. but it's the only way. Right? We cannot go on this journey. Integration is about understanding it. And the understanding it is the embracing of both sides, like the good and the bad, the black and the white. So think about what is your biggest fear? What is your biggest pain? What are the emotions around it? What are the stories that you kept telling yourself? And what are the aggressions against the people that you feel are holding you captive, right? Where do you play a state? Where are you in a state of victimhood? Where others are the one who are the perpetrators, right? Because you have to understand that they are only perpetrators because you allow them to be there, and because you're also playing a victim, right? You're taking on a role. And the reason why you're also taking on the role is because it's a protective mechanism. Because if you weren't taking on a role, that means that you need to go onto this adventure where you have no choice but to embrace your fullest potential, right? You do no longer have an excuse when you say that you're no longer a victim. No excuses. Then you can just go out there and start being you unapologetically. So you have a pain, you have a fear. Now, in that fear and in that pain, you have a repressive and a reactive way of being. Normally, for me, I was punishing myself. I hated myself. I was shameful. I had guilt. I had all those frustrations. And that would be equivalent to being very repressive, right? I repressed my emotions inside of me. Now, if you're someone like me and you repress it inside of you, it means that you also hold a resentment towards the people in your life that are very outwardly facing with their emotions, right? The one who judges, blames, and projects shit on others, right? Because we hold a resentment against the reactive side, but that's two sides of the same coin, right? They're just our mirror. So when we're embracing their way of being, that's when we're embracing those sides, and that's how we're integrating. That's what integration means. Integration means that you are embracing it, right? You're embracing the reactive and the repressive, and that's when you merge, and that's when you move into the gift frequencies. That's when you're extracting the nectar. That's one of the key absolute practices. Now, as you're moving into this and you start releasing the hard emotions, right? The guilt, shame, blame, desire, frustration, anger, hostility, and so forth. And you start moving up, and it start being a little bit easier, right? There's not panic anymore. Maybe there's a little bit of worry. There's just a little bit of anxiousness. Like, it is just tiny parts. It's no longer this huge cloud. As you're moving into that, then you start sensing that you start becoming a little bit more fluid with your environment. You start sensing how things are. Because the truth is this, that certain emotions clouds your perception. But when you've cleared them, your perception becomes clear, and you start embracing, you start feeling how the whole environment is around you. That's when your true sensitivity comes to life. Your true sensitivity comes to life. And then you have the potential to take in the gift. And the gift is like this pure field of the balanced expression of those emotions. It's not anger and it's not sadness, but anger holds passion and sadness holds sensitivity, right? It's almost like the fine tuning of the emotion is the expression that you can extract. And it becomes an enormous fine note, right? It's most the beautiful music you could perceive. Is no longer this enormously high pitch or low pitch, but it's this middle ground, this beautiful middle ground. And that's when you will start also tapping into what's called archetypes, like what myths are made of, the deities that are around you, the ones that you've maybe felt attracted to before. I'm sure that if you're in the spiritual field, there are certain maybe gods or power animals or any type of guides that you feel particularly drawn to. And that's because they're holding a frequency that your spirit feels as home. And you will be able to tap into that frequency fully when you're embracing and you're letting go of these emotions that have clouded your judgment, right? Because the gift frequencies is the land of archetypes. The land of archetypes. So that's another practice. Once you've cleared out that, you go into the archetypes. You start exploring what are the deities, what are the beautiful expressions of human activity that you feel drawn to. Then there's also a very hidden and almost very, very esoteric way of looking at things, is that a life or a country that you live in has an egregore, right? An egregore is a morphogenetic field. Think of it as an aura that surrounds a country because of the people that is in it. It's a combination of all the auras of the people that becomes a country, but it is over all time, right? So there's an old connection in your country, wherever you are, to a deity or a myth or a legend or something that your spirit, if you were born there, are a resonance to. Right? I'm in a resonance to the Vikings. I'm the resonance to Thor, Odin, all of these. And I feel that. I feel the wisdom from Odin, the fire from Thor. And you can tap into it. And that's how you also become this almost channel. Because you raise in the frequency, you start lining up your frequency, your human frequency with your frequency of your spirit. And that's when gift states just start popping out of you. Now, the roadmap to these places is one that I would say the primary one is the gene keys. If you've ever explored it, I highly, highly recommend it. You can go to genekeys.com. And there you be brought on a journey through your genetic expression. And they will go through all the shadows, the specific shadows in your life that holds back your potential. Because you picked the people in your life. You picked the the things that would happen in your life. You constructed this journey that you moved through, and the gene keys are decoding this journey that are inside of your genetic expression. That's where you will start understanding your shadows. And from the shadows, you will embrace the repressive and the reactive side, and it will move you into the gift frequency. So yeah, that's what it's all about. That's how you do it. The practices are inquiry of what you've already learned. But you have to look at the pain, follow it, and you will extract the full nectar of your potential and realize your gift when you do so. Okay, guys, that was it for today. Please comment below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, click the notification bell. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace, love, and joy to all of you. Bye for now.